On Get Up because we have another Mel Kiper Jr. mock draft, and this one's a beauty. We've got questions, he's got answers. It's a game that we're calling Ask Mel. Mel, here's the top 10 list. Let's start it off. Is Notre Dame running back Jeremiyah Love the NFL's next superstar running back?
Yes, he is, Peter. You think about Christian McCaffrey, you think about Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. That's what he's going to be expected to be. He's explosive. He can hit the 60-yard run in a blink. You can put him out in the slot. You can put him wide as a receiver. And guess what? Dependability, reliability, 0 fumbles, Peter, for Jeremiyah Love. If he's there for the Kansas City Chiefs, what a pick he would be at number 9 for a team that expects and wants to pick at 32. They're at number 9. The second best player in the draft on my board, still in play because of obviously that position. I said don't draft a running back in the first round. Teams have jumped on that bandwagon, Peter. That's why he's still there at pick number 9.
Yeah, I'm not sure he will be. He might go even earlier than that. Mel, is Alabama's Ty Simpson your clear-cut quarterback too?
By miles. Is nobody close to 2. In fact, back in mid-October, mid-November even, they were talking about him challenging Fernando Mendoza, and then he had the 5 games where he lost the fumble, and he obviously had a bad offensive line, no running game. Yet for Pittsburgh at 21, who doesn't expect to see quarterbacks there who can let it rip like Simpson, who's a faster, more athletic Mac Jones, would McCarthy do it? Where he didn't last year with Jackson Dart, will he do it this year? If he doesn't, then McVay and the Rams would see Ty Simpson on the board in the late first round with their second first-round pick. He would make an awful lot of sense at that point. It's an heir apparent to Stafford.
We're going to talk a bunch about this guy and where you have him going in the draft, but let's just start it with this. Is Ohio State safety Caleb Downs the best non-quarterback in this draft class?
Same grade for me as Arvell Reese and David Bailey, Peter, and I think it'll be settled over the next couple months. But hey, cerebral, great football IQ. Think about where we are with safeties. And Eric Turner went 2nd. Benny Blades went 3rd. Kenny Easley went 4th overall. Sean Taylor and Eric Berry went 5th overall. That's pretty good, right, for those safeties. Caleb Downs, I think if he doesn't go 2, would go 5 to the Giants. They need a new culture. They need somebody to set a new culture there. 41 interceptions Aaron Glenn had in his career, 24 with the Jets. They had 0 last year, the Jets. Caleb Downs would, I think, change everything from a mindset and an ability standpoint at that position.
I want to stop it down for a second because we got 2 great defensive backs on the show today. And you mentioned Kenny Easley and Sean Taylor, and Jamal Adams went 6. Safety at 2 is so unprecedented. It's only happened a couple times. Jason McCourty, you're here. Safety at 2, is that justifiable or is that a reach in today's NFL?
It speaks to kind of the evolution of defense and how it's always shifting. And Dominic, we talked about this before the show, where you're seeing guys playing a position at safety, but moving all around the football field. We saw with Kyle Hamilton, the deal that he signed with the Baltimore Ravens, how one year he was the deep safety, the very next year, this past season, he was up at the line of scrimmage. So yes, you're drafting a guy that's a safety by position, but you're able to deploy him all over your defense, and he impacts so many other roles within it.
J-Mac it says that. Now we go to Foxworth. Foxworth, safety at 2? This is rare air.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's surprising, but the versatility, and we saw a lot of teams have success by putting their opponent into, like, base personnel, by putting out their 2 tight ends, and then it forces you to put an extra linebacker on the field. I think what Caleb Downs gives you is the ability to play big nickel and be comfortable. Like, he's going to be as good against the run as just about any outside linebacker, and you're comfortable if they throw the ball, and if they shift formations, he can go back to the middle of the field. I think the concerning part would be if you try to get him isolated in man coverage against a receiver, which no safety really does all that well. I think we're looking at a new kind of generation of player. This kind of flexible, big nickel safety position is, I think, where Caleb Downs and his instincts and ability really would prevail in the NFL.
Mel, I'm going to bring you back in here. I'm in Greeny's chair, so there is some Jet stuff around this seat. And I think of Joe Caporoso and Connor Rogers and all these podcasters, the Badlands guys that are fascinated about this number 2 overall pick. I think if the Jets took a safety at number 2, there would be absolute pandemonium from the fans, and not in a good way. But you think they can do that? They have the flexibility where they could take a safety at 2nd overall?
I really do, Peter. I think you look at the culture that he will set. He came in with Alabama to Nick Saban, right, as a freshman. Immediately picked it all up, understood everything, was a leader. Goes to Ohio State, different coordinator in year 2, different coordinator in year 3. So all these different coordinators didn't matter. He's the coordinator on the field. Caleb Downs is. So you pick again at 16, you get maybe a defensive tackle like Peter Woods. To get a safety like this, instead of the Giants at 5, you get him at 2. You didn't have an interception last year in a pass-happy league. Are you kidding me? Aaron Glenn had 41. He was a Jet. He had 24. He's sitting there saying, get this guy. Kyle Hamilton, John Harbaugh love have that kind of guy and with the Giants, but you get him prior to that at pick number 2 with the Jets.
Yeah, and you think about what Nick Emenwari is going to end up doing for Seattle. It could be a game changer at that position. All right, back to the quarterback spot. You see the top 10. You didn't have Ty Simpson, but you do have him going at 21. Mel, talk about Ty Simpson a little bit and what your grade is on him.
Ty is a faster, more athletic Mac Jones. And I think you can say, okay, if you saw him up till mid-November, you thought high. If you saw him later, you said, is even a first-round pick, right? But he was a little banged up. He certainly took that hit from D'Angelo Ponce, preventing him from going to the Senior Bowl. He had that little bit of a weight loss. You think about before November, say 15th, 22 touchdown passes, 2 picks. I mean, he wasn't getting any help from the O-line. He wasn't getting any help from some drop passes by receivers. The running game was non-existent, didn't exist. There was no semblance of a running game. So for Ty Simpson, he had to carry the load. He put it all on his shoulders. That team on his back. They came back from down against Oklahoma. He brought it back. So for Ty, I'm not saying he's elite. He's not one of those top 5 guys in terms of grade. But when you're at 21 and you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think it would make an awful lot of sense.
This feels like an annual conversation because they always pick 19, 20, 21. J-Mac, your thoughts on now saying, all right, yes, Ty Simpson is our guy for the future.
I mean, you look at them and Aaron Rodgers, he was there last year. What are they going to do with him? Are they going to bring Aaron Rodgers back? If not, do they trust Will Howard to hand the keys over to? So if they draft Ty Simpson and you believe that he can go out there and play right now, is there an opportunity for Mike McCarthy to say he wants Aaron Rodgers back? If Rodgers sees that they draft a quarterback in the first round, does he want to be there? So I think there are a lot of ramifications when you talk about them drafting a quarterback at the end of the first round. Again, there's also you can bring up the Kenny Pickett of it all and how that all ended up for them. But I do think this is going to be a big spot for them drafting a quarterback and what it could mean for Aaron Rodgers there.
Nick, final word. Ty Simpson to the Steelers.
Yeah, I like any and every quarterback that the Steelers can get their hands on that gives them an opportunity at a long-term answer at that position. Draft Ty Simpson. If it doesn't work out, draft another one next year. They've been trying to kind of win around the edges at the most important position in football, and I think at this point they've got to commit and get as many bites of the apple as they can. If Ty Simpson is there, definitely give him a shot.
Can I just say, Mel Kiper, what an honor it is to be doing draft coverage with you. This is such a thrill for me personally, and we love being able to break down your mock draft. Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni spoke to reporters and indicated that there was mutual interest between A.J. Brown and the team in continuing his career with the Eagles. But neither he nor general manager Howie Roseman committed to Brown suiting up for them next season. Speaking at the Combine, this is what Sirianni had to say to a gaggle of Philadelphia reporters. Yeah, my expectation is he wants to be here. And obviously you want good players like that in your building. Will AJ be here next season? I think we're still in a spot. Like, I can't guarantee how anything is going to play out into next season. I'm thinking I'm going to be the coach next season, but you can't guarantee anything past tomorrow. That's a very esoteric way of, looking at life.
I like that.
That's good. We bring in Dominique Foxworth and Jason McCourty. Nick, why are you skeptical that the Eagles and A.J. Brown should run it back for another year?
Well, I mean, that quote says it all to me. I think if you go ask Sean McVay, is Puka Nacua going to come back? He's going to look at you like you're crazy and say, of course. The idea that it's even on the table, to me, suggests that they're considering it, which sometimes when that happens, it's time to move on. And over the last couple of years, they won a Super Bowl. AJ's had over 1,000 yards both times, got a ton of targets, and still something about it feels a little bit uncomfortable. He's a 30-year-old receiver who's still incredibly impactful. It seems like they started to focus more on Devontae Smith as the season went on, and they might be looking to make this trade to help build this team for the future. But I don't know. I think A.J. Brown is still one of the best receivers in football, and he certainly hasn't seemed all that happy as of late in Philadelphia.
Jason, let's put yourself in the player's shoes. Yeah. You're A.J. Brown. I don't know where he trains in the offseason or where he lives in the offseason, but you wake up on a Tuesday morning, you put on Get Up, you turn on, you see these quotes. Wait, what's your reaction?
I'm looking for clarity. A.J. Brown is somebody that's a huge advocate for mental health, and he talks about that, and he's comfortable in that space. If I'm A.J. Brown and I'm seeing Nick Sirianni, my head coach, say these things. And I want to say all this too. Sirianni said, I think A.J. wants to be here and I want him to be here. Just couldn't commit to what the future holds. But if I'm A.J. Brown and I'm under contract, the future tells me that I'm going to be a Philadelphia Eagle. So when you start to hear how this is being told, you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, wait, is there something going on? Are they looking to trade me? Are they having those type of conversations? And for a receiver and a player of A.J. Brown's caliber, once you start to have those conversations, if I'm A.J. Brown, well, the hell with it. Like, put me on the trading block because I know there are going to be teams out there that require my services and want me to be there. So if you don't, or you're kind of questionable, you don't know where you are, hey, I'll let you know and let me go out there and explore.
Let's take a look at some of these numbers here. A.J. Brown was steadily averaging over 80 yards per game in his first 3 years with Philly, but then last year, if you had him in fantasy, you know about this, took a huge step down and he averaged just 66 yards per game. J-Mac, you see that decline. Let's play the blame game here. Is that a Patullo issue? Is that a Sirianni issue? Is that an A.J. Brown issue? Or, dare I say it, is that a Jalen Hurts issue?
How about all of the above, Shregs? You can say that when you look at the way this offense performed in total. You can put up a graphic like that over the last few years, and I bet you in just about every statistical category, you're going to see a decline in 2025. I think looking at that graphic, you ask the question, is A.J. Brown still an elite wide receiver? And I think the answer to that question is yes. So if I'm another team and they are looking to trade him, he's a type of guy that I want. But if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I want A.J. Brown in my building because he is still an elite wide receiver.
Nick, I mentioned this in the first hour. They interviewed 17 different offensive coordinator candidates. They had 7 of them in for a second round. They chose a 32-year-old with absolutely no play calling experience in Sean Mannion.
Yeah.
If you're A.J. Brown and you hear that, is that encouraging? Hey, a new guy to hear from? Or is this, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes the decision about A.J. Brown a little bit more interesting because you could argue that at Sean Mannion, you want to give him the best chance to succeed, which means keeping a player like A.J. Brown. You could also make the argument that you're having a fresh start. And last year it was clear that A.J. Brown was a bit open about his disappointment in the way that the offense was operating. A 32-year-old offensive coordinator, I don't know how comfortable he's going to be being challenged by a 30-year-old receiver who's all-pro level talent. Like, that's a tough spot to be in. So I think that whatever they do, they're going to have to replace that production or at least replace the threat that A.J. Brown provides. And this offense is hard to imagine gets better without a receiver like that.
All right, for the viewers at home, this story is not going to go away. And in fact, both Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman will address the media in a very formal setting at the Combine over the next 48 hours. We'll have plenty of quotes and plenty of stuff from there. We're also going to have plenty from Dallas because coming up,